Good morning, students. How are you? I hope you guys are doing good. I just wanted to say welcome to Wisdom Wednesday. Today we are going to talk about mistakes, frustration, and perfection. And boy, you want to listen to this. Many of you know that I have been in the process of doing my books. During this process of me working on learning the process of how to do a Kindle book and learning how to then turn that Kindle book into a published paperback, and then learning how to take all of that and doing an Audible book and learning how to use Audacity. All of this stuff is really, really frustrating. I want to talk about that because I think in the process of us doing a lot of new things, we often get frustrated about the processes that are involved with taking care of all of these things and learning all of these new processes. But we do so with this unrealistic, unreasonable idea that we're not going to feel any feelings of negativity. We're not going to feel any feelings of being frustrated. And we are going to put this enormous burden of perfection upon ourselves. In today's day and age, it's really crazy because as independent contractors, as sole proprietors, as entrepreneurs, we're doing everything in the case where a lot of things would be done and we'd have partnerships and other people that would support us. Like you see a lot of people that are famous who are out there with books and all of these other things. Well, they all have support teams. And for a lot of us, we are the support team. And I want to give you an example of this is that, as I'm recording my audiobook, I'm finding errors, and that frustration in me is so strong because I know how much work I put into editing this. I know how many times I read it out loud. I know how many times I went through the Word document editor over and over and over again. And now that I'm in a new process and I'm recording it for Audible, I'm still finding errors, and oh my God, it's so frustrating. So I was brought back to this reminder for myself that it's okay to be imperfect. And it isn't so much that we need to focus on the errors, and we need to capture those errors. We need to find those errors because they are a representation of the work that we're putting out there. But we also need to realize that this is not a done deal. We and all of our projects that we work on, everything that we do that represents us is like Disneyland. It's never done. We are always adding and changing and updating. And I am applying the same steps that I apply to the Udemy success that I've had and am having, which is to find it and update it, right? And I am fortunate enough that through Kindle, and this is what's beautiful about doing the Kindle, which then turns into an audio or into a print book, is that it allows me to update it. So instead of me focusing on the mistakes and the negativity and the frustration, which I do feel in the moment, I kind of like, how did you let that slip? It seemed so obvious. But then I realized, I'm one person doing like 20 jobs, and I'm doing the best that I can with my awareness. And let's face it, after a while, when you've looked at something a million times, it just becomes like wallpaper. And this is why these little errors get through. But instead of beating myself up over these things, what I have not always have done, but what I have done in my most recent venture, at least for the last 3 years, is really be kinder to myself and realize that I am a one-man show. If you think of, Mary Poppins, and you think of, what's his name? he's playing the organ and he's doing the ear symbols and he's got symbols in between his legs and he's doing all these different things. And he's just one guy. Kitty kitty. He's just one guy doing every instrument. He is the entire band, and that's basically what we are. Is we are an entire band. And we have to be patient with ourselves and just realize that, these mistakes are going to happen because we just get exhausted. Things just become wallpaper after a while. We don't see them until we enter another process that makes us look at it all in a different way. And then we see it again because we're seeing it in a different light. And this is natural. It has nothing to do with the fact that you didn't pay attention or that you weren't good at what you were doing. Most people will see a little error, and if they're really supportive of you, they will look past that. I know that when I read books, even a Stephen King book, I found several errors. I find errors in books all the time. And so even with, professional supportive editors, there are still errors that happen. So one of the things that I, today, as I was recording my audiobook for the next level of True Stories of an Urban Shaman, I found more errors. But what I did is I felt that frustration and that annoyance and that, kind of badgering of myself. And then I said, I'm going to apply the same things that I do to how I have been working through Udemy. Is when someone brings something to my attention, or when I notice something is wrong, or someone says, hey, there's a misspell in this book, I simply go back and correct the misspell. I thank them for the support because it's like having a second pair of eyes. And instead of being shamed or embarrassed about it, I go back in and I update it. And I've done the same thing with people that would give me negative reviews because they felt certain things were missing. I went back in and I created those things that were missing and added it to the course. And that turned my reviews around. So we are these walking, talking, creative brochures that are never through. And every project, every thought, every creative idea that runs through our minds and comes out through our fingers and our toes in expression, it's never done. And so what we need to understand is to be kind to ourselves and allow ourselves to make mistakes, allow ourselves to have a human moment of frustration and even negativity. Yesterday, I felt like I wanted to throw some things because I was learning this new Audacity program and I kept uploading and it was rejecting it, and figuring out why all this stuff is happening. It's all part of a new process. But instead of shaming myself for that reaction, having a reaction and not being perfectly composed in every moment, being cranky, I allowed myself to have that. And then I analyzed where it was coming from and why it was that way. And I realized that I need to go back to that part of me that is grounded, that says it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay that you are not perfect. And it's okay to go back and update things. Even if you put something out there that was a mistake, you can redo it over again. You can update whatever it was. And that includes, mistakes that you have made maybe as a person. Right now we're talking about books and audio and words on paper. But maybe it's a mistake that you've made in life, and you've been shaming and judging yourself for it. You, again, are a walking, talking brochure of creative expression. And anything that you have done in your life, you can undo, you can update. If you can't undo it completely, you can step back in there and you can make it right. So, with that being said, I just wanted to share this very human week of frustration and mistakes and put it into a perspective that is grounded and centered and is no longer shaming yourself or being angry at yourself for having these human emotions. Because guess what? You are human and you're allowed to have them. So with that being said, before I take off, please like and subscribe below. Get me into the algorithm of Udemy to help other people find me. Please leave a comment. I love when you guys leave me comments and tell me how this affected you or what you thought, or even just whatever your opinions are. I would love to hear it in the comments. I love to respond to you guys too. I try to respond to everybody. And with that being said, I will see you guys next week on Wisdom Wednesday. Bye-bye. What? say hello.